So the reality is that it is very, very challenging to make sense of redevelopment downtown based off our current zoning and planning process. So Jim has the same problem that most property owners have. If you have an existing building, that creates a certain value for the land that it sits on, right? Because if you have an existing building, it can create a cash flow, assuming you can find a tenant, and that cash flow creates a certain value to that building and land. So if you have an existing building, if you want to redevelop it to recover the value that that building has, you have to, once you knock it down, you have to recover all that value that cash flow can generate for that site. So Jim's is a great example, that Restoration Hardware site. That building, is pretty decent sized building. You rent it even at suppressed rental rates that exist today. It still creates a value for that building. And if you knock it down, you got to recover that value. So that can be millions of dollars that the moment you destroy that building, you've got to recover somehow, right? So it's true. If you run the pro formas on a lot of these buildings, it's hard to recover that destruction of value. And it's not hard, it's very hard to find development sites where the land value can be recovered. And then the other irony, Josh, is that I'll give you another great example of how crazy our policies are. I've got a building on the 400 block of State Street, a large office building. It's like 28,000 square feet. And it is a great building, great candidate for housing conversion. So you take 28,000 feet, you convert it to small housing units, and you've given the city a bunch of inventory that it needs. You've taken office product square footage out, which the city currently doesn't need and appears to not need for the immediate, near term, given what's happening in the office market. But the city, actually, by the current code, it doesn't allow that conversion because that would be too many units on the amount of square footage of the land. Right? Now, how crazy is that? The city, so any big building on a small lot that's currently office and or retail, say it's retail on the ground floor and office above it, is not a candidate for conversion because the city doesn't allow the density to convert it to housing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy, that the city is not innovative enough to realize, well, that should be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If somebody has a commercial building and they want to do a housing conversion, it should be automatically encouraged to put as many housing units as possible in that structure, period. And there should be real efforts to encourage it, right? But instead, the city discourages it because it doesn't give you the density, and then it requires a certain component of it to be affordable, right? Well, think how crazy that is. If you got a commercial building and your options are you can't get the density in there, and then even if you do put some of it dedicated to housing, you got to convert and a portion of that to affordable, and so you got a covenant on your property for decades to restrict your use of that commercial property. It's so illogical that it's absolutely mind-blowing that we don't have better policy at such a critical thing. And we got to get housing downtown